Well, folks, it's been a while. Just thought I'd give you an update on my newest project that I'll be undertaking over the next, I don't know, maybe a couple months. But this is what I've decided to go with. Muskets and Tomahawks. I'm sure you've heard of it. But yeah, I've been debating on how I'm going to go about this project, but the choice was between 28 millimeter figures and 15s, and I opted for the 15s. And the rules work quite well for 15 or 28, or any scale actually. But I like the 15s. They're easier to paint for me. I have a lot of time constraints, so it fits me. Plus I have lots of 15 millimeter already. But what I want to show you today is some of the stuff I've been working on. It is my new project. I'll be doing this, and I'll be having some videos showing what I've done so far and my future plans with the game. Up there, as you can see, I've got some 15 millimeter Old Glory French. These are from their 7 Years War line, and these figures are actually sold as 15 millimeter, but they're quite big. They're more like the 18 millimeter, the larger 15 millimeter, which I like. So I recommend these guys. I always recommend the bigger 15 millimeters. The 18 millimeter actually is what they're called. These are Old Glory. You can get them in the UK and America quite easily. They come in big bags, relatively cheap. Yeah, that's what they look like. And I got a full unit of grenadiers here. See if I can get a close up. You can get an idea what they look like. I got a drummer here. He's going to be for my line unit. I'm not using him for the grenadiers. The grenadiers are going to have a sergeant actually with a halberd or spontoon or something, which they didn't actually have. As soon as they got off the boat, they'd get rid of these and substitute them for a carbine or a musket. But I'm going to use him with my grenadiers, since my grenadiers are kind of fancy and elite. Yeah, they look pretty good. I got them all based, and I'm using washers. I was going to use pennies, but I chose washers. So yeah, and you can get washers. These are the 1/4 inch washers. I got 100 of them for just a few bucks at Lowe's here in America. But yeah, that's what they look like. Pretty good. They're perfect sized. If you're going to do any kind of skirmish gaming with 15 millimeter, I highly recommend the 1/4 inch washers. These have some pretty big holes, which you can fix. Just put a little cardboard on there, super glue it on, and then put the figure on top. Not always needed. Sometimes you can just put them right over the hole, even on these big ones. And here's a few of the Old Glory French line infantry I'll be using. And what I did to differentiate them was I cut off the sword hilt and cut the sword down to make it look like a bayonet scabbard instead, because they didn't carry swords. And I took the bayonet off the barrel of the gun. So on the tabletop, these guys, I can easily differentiate them between my grenadiers. And when you're playing 15 millimeter, it's pretty essential that you find ways to quickly identify your models, because they are a little bit smaller and it's not always easy to do. And I should also add that I'm collecting the Lasalle Regiment, which served in America during the French and Indian War. And they had basically blue cuffs and red vests, and no facing colors or lapels. Their coats were buttoned up. No collars, and so on. But there they are, folks. That's the Grenadiers. They got mustaches. Grenadiers had mustaches. So that's what that looks like. And these painted up really super fast. One of the huge advantages of 15 millimeter. They're still a little wet. Just put the base flock on. But yeah, and so I highly recommend the Old Glory. Now another line of miniatures you can use, and I highly recommend these, is Blue Moon. And these figures are sold as 18 millimeter as well. These are some British line command. You get guys on foot like this, and they match up pretty well with the Old Glories. So they look pretty much like that. So a perfect match. The Old Glory 15s and the Blue Moon 15s, or 18 millimeter actually. Yeah, it's perfect. And I got a slew of them. Sorry for the glare. These are Grenadiers marching for British. I got British Line Command. Got some flags in there, which are Revo flags. They're actually Napoleonic flags. I got them on eBay. A bunch of banners. I'll probably use them for my Napoleonics project, another project. But yeah, I got them. And here's the blisters, what they look like if you get Blue Moon. Woodland Indians. I got the Marines. I got British Rangers. I got the Frontier Militia. I've got British Line Skirmishing, which I'm going to be doing up next. Brand new in their blisters. And yeah, these are a good price. I think these are like 50 cents a miniature. I think it comes to, you get like 30 in a pack for 15 bucks, whatever that is. I don't know, but that's what you get. They come in bags like this. So that's a lot of figures. You get a lot of units out of that. And just to be a little bit more technical here for everybody, here's a comparison of Essex, Old Glory, and Blue Moon miniatures, 15, from their 7 Years' War lines, or French and Indian War lines. So you can get an idea of what they look like on the table. Now in the middle I got two Essex British miniatures. On the left I've got two French Old Glory miniatures. And on the far right, this Grenadier here, I've got a British Blue Moon. So as you can see, they all match up really well. The smallest would be the Essex, and the poses aren't that great, and they are kind of expensive, but they're a nice choice. I happen to have quite a few of them, so I'm using some of them. But the Old Glory and the Blue Moon, all I could say is they're perfect together. They match up really well, and the detail on these Blue Moons is really nice. You can't see that, a lot of glare and shit, but there it is. What else? Another thing to consider when you're playing 15 is whether you're going to use the metric system and measure movement and firing ranges by centimeters, or use the standard imperial measurement of inches for 28ths. It says you can use the metric system if you're going to use 15s, which means you're going to be playing on a very small table, which works good. But you know what? I looked at it pretty close and thought about it, and you know what? You can easily play with 15 millimeter figures using the standard inch imperial measurement system with no problem. The scale isn't that off. In fact, it might even be closer at times, because these figures are actually 18 millimeters. So 1 inch equals, what is it in this? I think it's 2 meters. So it's like 6.5 feet per inch. And a typical 28, 30 millimeter figure, that's they're bigger than an inch, so it's actually off scale a little bit. So in 15 millimeter, an inch actually represents about 10 feet. So with 18 millimeter or bigger, you're just as close to the scale. So I guess one of the good things about 15 is you could play either way. I could use the metrics, or I could use the imperial measurement, and no problem. In my case, I'm going to really try and stick with the imperial measurements, 1 inch, when moving and shooting and stuff. So those little Grenadiers are going to be moving 4 inches a turn as opposed to 4 centimeters. Whichever you prefer, you could use. So yeah, I have a pretty big table, so 6 by 4. So these guys are going to be playing on the full table. So that's the progress so far. That's my newest project. I intend to get done and playing probably within the month. But I'll probably tinker around with it for a couple months anyway. Keep adding new stuff, you know, as I have time. I still do Flames of War and Impetus, and I got some projects lined up for them and some new things down the line. So right now, Muskets and Tomahawks. That's my newest project, folks. So I hope this video helped. If you're contemplating using 15 or 28 millimeter figures, 28's great. I love 15 better. They're quick to paint. I can get more on the table. I could throw on a whole battery of cannon if I wanted. Not that this game runs well with that many cannon, but it certainly is interesting and cheap and easier to do. Go out and get yourself some washers, or use square bases. I prefer the washers because they're weight, you know, they're heavier. And I always have the option of putting these on squares if I wanted, or magnetizing them, because they are washers, steel bases. So there's quite a variety there. I got some more French, some more figures from Old Glory. Got some nice animated poses to their French. Some standard bearers, which are going to be officers, which they were. Their ensigns were usually lieutenants in the French army, so they're going to be officers. And yeah, folks, that's what's going on. And okay, so I'll keep you updated on what's next with this hobby and what I'm going to be doing with Muskets and Tomahawks. I'm planning some pretty good battle reports, among other things, and it should be pretty interesting. Okay, folks, see you soon. Any questions about scale or miniatures or anything to do with Muskets and Tomahawks, let me know. I'm more than willing to help out. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.